Super Kids Reading. Super Kids Reading from Zainab Lozer, I'd like to express how excited and privileged we feel to not only sponsor today's event, but to help support the important work and the mission of the Reading League here in Connecticut. Organizations like the National and Connecticut Reading Leagues are critical to helping educators access current research and implement evidence-aligned reading instruction into their classrooms. We thank the Connecticut Reading League Board and all of the talented speakers for sharing their experience, their research, and knowledge with all of us today. We believe that this conference will lay the foundation for a great future for the Reading League's growth and success here in Connecticut. Before we get started, let's go over some quick housekeeping items and Zoom tips to make sure today's webinar runs smoothly. All right, first up, you will all be getting a certificate of participation today, and we'll be sending you a recording of today's webinars via email after the webinar is finished. You also get speaker handouts, but you unfortunately won't get the presenter slides from their slideshows because of intellectual property rights. Today's audio settings, please you make sure you adjust your audio settings on your end, on our end, or on the whole webinar's end. You will not, your camera will be off and you'll always be muted, so it won't be a problem. But make sure you can adjust your own if you're having a hard time hearing. The access to today's webinar is open all day, so we understand your schedules are busy. If you have to jump on and off, that's not a problem. But just when you try to rejoin, just use your original webinar link. It should work fine. If you do run into any tech issues, try exiting Zoom and restarting and then rejoining. If that doesn't work, you can try restarting your computer and hopefully your Wi-Fi to try logging again with that original email link. If you have any questions, our Q&A box will be open and we will try to share all the relevant questions with the entire group. And if you're asking questions for presenters, they will try to respond to them as time permits. So with that, thank you, and let's get started.
Thank you, Steve, for that nice introduction. Good morning, everyone. I am Jean Morgan, and I am the president of the newly formed the Reading League Connecticut chapter. On behalf of our chapter, I would like to sincerely welcome you to our very first event, The Defining Movement Comes to Connecticut. The Reading League Connecticut is a proud entity that aligns our purposes, activities, policies, and procedures with the Reading League National, whose goal is to increase the knowledge of science-based approaches to teaching reading and support the use of these approaches in the classroom. The Reading League Connecticut chapter was established just this past June with the goal of reimagining the future of literacy in our state. We share the mission of the national organization by advancing awareness, understanding, and the use of evidence-based reading instruction throughout our small but mighty state by connecting all stakeholders and providing sound educational resources. We firmly believe that all children can learn to read and all teachers can learn to teach them. It is with great honor and privilege that I introduce the dedicated and passionate members of our chapter board. We are collectively a group of people who have spent decades on the front lines of reading research and instruction. Amy Geary, our vice president, Siobhan Brearley, our secretary, Deb Hillemeyer, our treasurer, board members, Crystal Bartek, Bonnie Dombrowski, Margie Gillis, Rachel Isaacs, Chrissy Martinez, Nancy Chappell Eberhardt, Bette Gaylor, Melanie Horn, Cheryl Knapp, and Pam Whiting. Thank you for being a part of our team. The Reading League Connecticut is dedicated to sharing knowledge and inspiring change, and the demand for our help throughout our state is growing. Please consider becoming a member of our growing team. The annual membership to the Reading League is free. Membership benefits include basic membership to the Reading League National, access to the Reading League's monthly e-newsletter, discounts to all the Reading League Connecticut events and programs, and an opportunity to partner with us by volunteering your time or by supporting the mission through financial donations. You can join by going to our website, ct.thereadingleague.org. Following our conference today, all registered attendees will receive a certificate of attendance access to a recording of the conference, and a conference survey. We strongly encourage you to complete the survey so the Reading League Connecticut can learn how to best support all our partners and stakeholders through our programs and resources. Additionally, we would like to generously thank our Spotlight partners who have donated numerous items to give away as a means of saying thank you for taking the time out of your day today to join us for our inaugural conference. Giveaway winners will be selected from our list of attendees following the conference. Winners will be contacted by email to facilitate the mailing of your gifts. It is now my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker. Dr. Maria Murray is CEO and president of the Reading League. Prior to founding the Reading League, Dr. Murray was an associate professor at the State University of New York at Oswego, where she taught courses related to literacy assessment and intervention for 10 years. She received her PhD in reading education from Syracuse University, where she served as project coordinator for Dr. Benita Blackman's numerous federally funded early reading intervention grants. Dr. Murray is passionate regarding the prevention and remediation of reading difficulty and consistently strives to increase educator knowledge and the connections between research and practice. We are so excited to have Maria join us today to talk about the nationwide movement to define the science of reading in an effort to end low literacy in our country. Welcome, Maria.
Thank you so much, Jean. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. I'm very grateful for that lovely introduction. I'm beyond grateful and humbled to sit here. I have such a feeling of joy and amazement that there is such a thing as a reading league in Connecticut with such powerful advocates running it. Thank you very much for inviting me to be part of your first event. I'm just overcome with joy to be here. So without further ado, as the saying goes, I'm here at the Reading League National, and good morning to everybody. The sun, here comes the sun music is perfect because we actually have sun here in Syracuse. I'm in a very good mood. It is my mother's 94th birthday today. So what a beautiful day to be with you all. All righty. I will pause, I think, a couple times to ask folks some questions. You can put those in the Q&A, give you a minute to get oriented with that as we get moving. So, the science of reading, defining movement is what I'm here to talk about. And that has been a movement that's just about a year old now. But before I talk about that, Jean already told you about the mission of the Reading League. So I have it there again. We share that mission with all of our state chapters. And we, again, are beyond grateful that they have taken on the important work of bringing that mission across our country and hopefully beyond someday. The Reading League National started as a grassroots movement. It started at my kitchen table on October 13th or so, 2015. So do that math. We're not even quite 6 years old, and look how far this has come. That does speak loudly to how much of a need there was in the field of education to learn about how we can best maximize our instruction to maximize students' outcomes. We are a league. The logos you're looking at very much represent our work and the mission. So we all come together around this reading enterprise, and those stones or shapes or figures there, they all represent the diverse knowledge bases that all the members bring to reading. So I know very little or next to none about linguistics or communication sciences, However, I can bring what I have to you, and I can now, because we have a league, I can reach out and find readily somebody that can answer any question that comes to us, or can provide events for Reading League National or our conference or Reading League Connecticut. They can reach out, and together we can be pretty powerful in what our knowledge is, to share that knowledge. Hope that makes sense. So that's why our logo is designed as it is. It is absolutely, they call us a social movement, because we all know that literacy is critical for us as a society and so forth. So happy to be here doing this work. Now, another movement, another grassroots movement that I want to talk to you about today is the defining movement. I adore talking about this because it has invigorated me and all of these coalition members and others for the last year. So just a year ago, September 2020, we started meeting weekly, this coalition of members you see listed here. And I called all these people and said, there's something going on out there. And this is where I'm going to ask you folks to start, if you'd like, sharing in the Q&A something that might resonate with you while I talk here. So I don't know if you've seen, but this is what I'd like you to share. Have you also witnessed any instances of the definition of the science of reading seeming off or wrong or misused, or not really meaning what you understand it to be? So here's what was happening in the years or months prior to starting the defining movement. We were starting to hear or see on social media posts, that's a great example, people saying that the science of reading was something they tried, but it didn't work, so they're going back to what they used to do. Or they would say a program they adopted, one that people familiar with the findings from the science of reading would understand is not in alignment with the findings from the science of reading, and say, well, we adopted it because the publisher said it is in alignment with the science of reading, that they have research that is scientific. And finally, I've got many, many, many examples, and I hope people do type some in. We finally noticed calls from other groups for a widening of the definition of the science of reading to include all kinds of research. So I don't see any Q&As. That might just be because I'm not, let's see, but I hope that what I'm saying does resonate with you. Okay, so I said to this group when we convened it, would you be willing to, oh, here we go, example, people drawing from and adapting a lot of different practices and compromise. Okay, yes. So that person that just posted that, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Thank you. Kind of watering down of the science of reading. I've had someone tell me that the science of reading is just another phase, and they've tried it years ago and it didn't work. Oh, yeah, yes, Michelle. It didn't work, yeah. Okay, keep typing those in, and that will maybe get your memory going, and you can share too. So I said to people, would you like to meet on a Zoom and discuss whether it would be worth us even bothering to try to, okay, people can't see the Q&A, we can, but I will read them as they come in. Thank you. So people can't see them. Anyway, I will read them. So I said, should we get together and try to define this? What do you think? I expected a handful of people to say no, because X, Y, or Z. However, this entire group that we invited here, not a single person said, no, we shouldn't do this. We did say that we expect to get some kickback. And actually we did a little bit, but not really. Okay, someone else said, I heard a professor tell a grad student that we've always been using the science of reading. All right, well, based on what we talk about today, we'll find that that can't be the case. And someone else wrote, people doing what they're comfortable with and have always, people are doing what they're comfortable with and have always done. Oh, Nicole, misunderstanding that the science of reading is just phonics instruction. We're seeing that a lot lately with people and publishers adding a phonics component and then saying now they're in alignment with the science of reading as though that's what it is. Yep. Thank you, friends. Okay, so we started holding weekly meetings. Not everyone could come every week, but for the most part, we had a nice sized group. And the first job we gave ourselves was, well, why reinvent the wheel? If there's already a definition out there, let's use it. So our job was to go out, scour our books, our shelves, the internet, and try to find a definition of the science of reading that we thought was simple and clear and kind of, when I say clear enough to make people go, okay, now I know what it is, and I will not be swayed by a publisher or anyone else that calls for a widening of the definition. I'll know why that's not a good idea. Okay, I love it. Keep going with the Q&A. I'm going to keep half an eye on it. I've got 2 eyes. I'll give you half of a one. Okay, so our goals, once we did that, were going to be from those lists of definitions we had, can we find a common and clarifying understanding of what it is to us, and therefore for others? And can we, by doing this task, which is not going to be as easy as it sounds, can we eliminate misconceptions, some of which you folks are typing here? Can we eliminate the misuse or underuse? And can we eliminate the co-opting of the term, meaning not everyone should be able to just slap a sticker on their product and say aligned with the science of reading? Michelle typed in, refusing to believe that it is truly the science of reading if it does not involve small group instruction with leveled text. Fascinating. That's a good one. And Sean wrote, the thought that the science of reading is only for special education students. Absolutely. And someone else typed, teachers seem jaded to a new way to teach reading. Whoever typed that, you made me think of a time when I was asked to give a presentation to a school, and I sent my slide deck in advance, and they asked me to change a slide that I had indicating that the science of reading has been around for 40 plus years. And they asked me to remove that for fear of the educators in the audience thinking that this was not, they didn't want the teachers to think this has been around a long time. They wanted them to think it was something new and they hadn't missed out. Fascinating. Okay, we also hoped by doing this work that we could prevent the oversimplification or dilution, I said underuse earlier, and then to protect quite frankly, the integrity of the findings of the science of reading and the promise of its findings, because as Jean said when she was beginning this day, we know that all children deserve to learn to read, that almost all of them can learn to read. Most of them can learn to read better than they are learning to read. And that's just not happening. It's just not happening. Okay. Oh, Michelle's got some good ones. She said that we don't need it because our test scores are very good. Someone else wrote, another goal is to impact boards of education, district school administrators. I am going there soon. Yes, absolutely. Thank you, everybody. Okay. Keep typing, I'll keep looking. This is great. Okay, so why even try to promote a common definition? So those were our goals, but now we wanted to tell people, now you know, Once you get a bunch of clever people on a committee or a coalition like this, ideas start blooming, beautiful ideas. So we didn't want to just put out a definition. We had to explain to people, here's our rationale for doing so. We're not trying by any means to own a definition. We're not trying to create a definition out of thin air, a new one, a special one. And in fact, what we're happy with just looking at the definitions that have been in front of us and looking at what they all have in common and just kind of boiling it down to the clear, basic simplicity of what it is. Okay, so now maybe I should have started telling you all this or mentioning this. I think the science of reading, like in education, and if you want to type in the Q&A too and comment on this slide, please do. The science of reading has become a catchphrase, has it not? We see these in education. My buttons are rubbing on the table. I'll try to not do that. In education, we get a lot of catchphrases. RTI, Common Core, all those kind of things started to come out. And then before you know it, you see a publisher slapping a gold foil sticker on their product and that said, wasn't this ridiculous? RTI approved, as though RTI could approve something. These things, when something becomes a catchphrase, it means dollar signs for a lot of people. And the beauty and the underlying purpose of that thing seems to disappear and we lose it. So let's try to keep that from happening. But the science of reading, I don't know about everyone listening here today, but boy, I, as a presenter back in the 90s or early 2000s, I could not have used that phrase when I did professional development in schools. It would not have gone over well. It wasn't understood at all. It was seen as a negative thing. And so I had to avoid that phrase. I am so impressed in the last 5 years even, and I give a lot of thanks to Emily Hanford's audio documentary that kind of brought the science of reading really into the limelight in the public's view anyway. It's just amazing that the science of reading, and we should be very thankful, is a well-known, hungered for thing in education. It's fantastic. Now it's time to make sure that we don't let it get derailed. Okay, so we have a rationale that says a common definition, if we can get one, could support educators and parents as they discern what is in alignment with the science of reading and what isn't. Okay. And at the Reading League, I don't know why, but for a long time, many years ago, we decided to abandon the phrase evidence-based and say evidence-aligned instruction or evidence-aligned assessment, because there's so much evidence out there and there's so many things in our practice that we have to get in alignment to really make things start chugging along. So we just prefer that rather than based, because based sounds like final and kind of snotty. Okay, so we think a common definition would do great to support educators and parents. Also, a common definition can assist people in becoming wiser consumers of materials, of professional development, and other resources. So if a publisher comes to your school and shows you their product, how nice that if they say it's science of reading, if you understand the definition of it, you might say, well, I'm in agreement with this or I'm not, and here's why. Professional development, it worries me very much that there are some deliverers of PD that are including sessions on the science of reading when they do not have the enough knowledge or expertise in delivering that. Let me just suffice it to say. So hopefully people can become wise consumers about that. We also hope a common definition will impact publisher and policymaker decisions as they develop their guidelines around what materials or policies are offered in their states or districts. All right, so we already know that the science of reading is impacting some publishers. As I just said, they're starting to add that phonics component, excuse me, to their materials, but we've got a long way to go because they're keeping other aspects in their programs that are not in alignment. So not good. Okay, we also hope, we got two more here, that a common definition can guide people in that true educational transformation that will ultimately and finally lead to effective practice, and that effective practice is sustained, not just sticking around for a year or two. Okay, the Reading League we like to call ourselves knowledge brokers. We feel that there has too long been an absence of a way to get what the scientists have long understood and found to practitioners. So we try every way we can to provide that knowledge, whether it's the journal or live events or the conference or professional development, you name it. We have many programs that we do this with, but we don't want to ever do professional development or anything that's kind of one and done. There, we need sustainable change and true transformation in this field. Got to keep our eyes on the prize. Thank you. Someone typed, our district will be searching for a new reading program within the next year. This information is so important. I highly encourage your district to use the Reading League's curriculum evaluation tool that is on our website. You can always email me, maria@thereadingleague.org, if you cannot locate it on the website. And we always urge districts to prioritize building knowledge about the science of reading before adopting a program. Michelle, you've got such good ones. I've been told that you can find evidence and research for any reading concept you want to support. Yeah, kind of not true, but we can talk about, I hope at the end, how to answer that. And are you going to go over the definition? Yes. Okay. Getting there, Nancy. Thank you. Finally, unify the effort of all stakeholders on behalf of students to advance the educational equity. Okay. So, and that will be a big part of the ending of this presentation. Here's the definition. Wow, all that talk, and here it is. Pretty simple, right? I hope you're not disappointed. I hope you're pleased that it is so simple. The science of reading, here's what it is. It's a body of knowledge, just like there's a science of medicine, right? And that's much older than the science of reading. And it comes from fields from psychology to cardiology to dermatology and so forth and so on. But it's vast and it's interdisciplinary. It comes from many different fields that I'll talk about in a moment. And it's a body of scientifically based research about reading and issues related to reading and writing. I love our definition. So we didn't bring this out of thin air. We culled this from multiple different definitions and kind of just made it as simple as possible to remember and understand. So it's huge. It's not just phonics. It doesn't come from just one field of discovery and knowledge building. And when we were deciding on this definition, we realized that the thing we got to key in on is the part that's italicized here, that it's this, what kind of research? It's not just any kind of research. It's not just any kind of knowledge, as the person just noted earlier. It's scientifically based research that we're talking about. And I'll tell you why. Thank you, Gail. Gail says it's a great definition. So important to see it as a science. evolving as we practice, research, and learn more rather than something concrete. Fabulous point. And it's been in my mind to say is somewhere in here. Science is not a pendulum swing. Nobody is ever going to come into a school down the road and say, in a few years, and say, oh, phonological awareness, oopsie, we were wrong about that. It's not important for learning to read. It's not the case. The science of reading, just like any other scientific body of knowledge, starts out with a discovery and it thuds. And then it can get polished, it can get added to, but it's not gonna swing and disappear. The knowledge is the knowledge. And what tends to swing like a pendulum are the ways that we practice that knowledge or the materials we use, right, from publishers and so forth. Those things swing, how we implement it, small group, whole group, and things like that. Okay, now to refine the definition and kind of add to it, the research has been conducted over the last 5 decades across the world, derived from thousands of studies conducted in multiple languages. That's why we chose the word vast. It is long-term, thousands of studies, not just a couple dozen, and multiple languages. I have to stop here. Someone wrote, important to distinguish between peer-reviewed scientific research versus the publisher's research. That is an absolute truth. If you're having discussions about programs, you do not want to rely on what the publisher has derived from their own data. That doesn't make it scientifically based content inside of that program. Okay, next, underneath that in the smaller print to the right, the science of reading has culminated in a preponderance. Boy, we fretted over that word. It's a weird word, but we didn't want to say ton, but it has culminated in a ton of evidence to inform how proficient reading and writing develop, why some students have difficulty, and how we can most effectively assess and teach, and therefore improve student outcomes through prevention and intervention for reading difficulties. So we can kind of encapsulate where the science of reading has really had a lot of impact, okay, in those areas. There's still a lot to discover, which is great, and we will. Okay, kind of this slide is getting into what a few of you have typed into the Q&A. And there are lots of ways to research and build a body of knowledge about a way of knowing about things in our world. So when we want to develop ways of knowing about reading and issues related to reading and writing, there are many ways to go about that. And all of the knowledge and knowings that knowledge and knowings, to me, they're distinct, not going there. But all of that is important and valuable. None of it is less than the other. It's kind of like the simple view of reading. The decoding is not more important than the language comprehension. We need both. So we need all kinds of research and knowing about reading. And there's other kinds of research about our bodies and our health that are valid and important to consider, not just the science of medicine. So anywho, the type of question though is what helps us to determine the method or approach of research. So as it says here, and I'm fine that I'm reading slides and I'm sorry, I hate doing that, but there are other kinds of research, and here's a bulleted pile of a few for examples that really inform the science of reading. So perhaps someone did a qualitative study And that led to someone having a new kind of question that's like, well, fantastic. Now, based on this case study, for example, how can we get that child or a person like that child or a group of population of children to go from A to B? How can we predict where they'll be? How can we literally move them along and close a gap between a certain population of students that is inequitable? Those kinds of questions rely on a scientific answer to that. So I'm going to get there in a minute too. Remember, I said that the science of reading is derived from a vast interdisciplinary group of research. And so here are the multiple fields from which we are getting, still to this day, hundreds of studies a year from these fields. There are probably 50 to 60 scientific journals published out there that feature regularly articles about reading and issues related to reading and writing. So that's pretty impressive. When we present to school districts, we say this is fantastic, yet it's also part of the problem, because a lot of this research is conducted this creates a silo effect. So people in special education may read different research than those up on the second floor above them in cognitive psychology, or in the building on the other side of the campus where they do linguistics. And so they might have narrower views of things, but when we take it all together, we can see that there is, in fact, consensus and a convergence of the findings, which is great. Here is what the science of reading is not. So as a coalition, every week we would say, well, we need to have a rationale, which we showed you right here. And we need to have the definition, and we need to have all the fields that it's come from. And we need to have a listing of what the science of reading is not. This might even be one of the most important slides for the public to see. So it is not a philosophy or an ideology. It is not. You can't, I hear people say, my philosophy is that I believe in the science of reading. It just doesn't kind of work just that way. And if you understand the definition that it's a vast body of knowledge, you can say you rely on it, or you believe in getting your information from it. But always keep in mind, it's a big body of knowledge. It's not a fad. Fads aren't going to last 50 years and then go away. It's not a trend. It's nothing new, as I was asked to tell a group of teachers, but refused to. And again, it's not a pendulum swing. It is not a political agenda. I've heard it attributed to the right wing and to the left wing. No, it's neither. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. It's not a scripted program. It's not any kind of program of instruction in particular at all. And it's not a single specific component such as phonics. So your previous Q&A hit on almost all of these. Thank you. I should mention here, I'm relying on the Q&A and everyone here. If there's something you're thinking of that you think we've missed, type it in. Every time I present this gets stronger, and I would appreciate anyone who says, what about this? And you forgot this. We will definitely consider anything you think we missed. Okay. Most wordy slide. We're not reading it. Don't worry. Here is also something that we decided as a coalition to include. So reading research that is scientifically based, here's that italicized part. Oops, the M is italicized and it shouldn't be, and must, but it must feature these components. So when we want to answer the kind of question in terms of how do we prevent reading difficulties? How do we prevent students from blah, blah, blah? How do we best screen? How do we best assess? when we want these questions, we typically have to use a study design that is experimental or quasi-experimental. Those are defined in the middle column. And then we also give a separate column to why those things are important. So these kinds of designs are those that can actually answer questions about individuals and about which practices are effective. They actually give us a way to tease out how to maximize effectiveness. And then these kinds of designs allow the researchers who are doing the studies to say, well, yes, it is this vocabulary method or approach that was responsible for children having stronger vocabularies at the end of elementary school or something. Okay, we want to get as close as we can to a cause and effect answer so that we can get confidence that it's the experimental treatment or experimental procedure or approach that related to the improved outcomes. This is all about getting improved outcomes, right? The second row, the second component is scientifically based research must include a detailed description of what they did. Because if you did it with a classroom or one elementary school, will they be able to then replicate it to an entire population in a city, or older students or adults or students with special needs? So we want to be able to replicate, again, there's that science, how it thuds, and we polish it through replication and generalizability. How do we really expect what this researcher found in their study in Albany, New York, to generalize to the real world, right? Yes, researchers, like I worked on some studies here in Syracuse, and we were the researchers going in and doing the study, but then we wanted to generalize and do another study and teach the teachers to do it and say, how does it really work when teachers do it? Yay, it did work still. So see, we were building the knowledge, making it stronger and stronger. So I love the column over on the right about why replication is important. Yeah, we have consistency. It didn't just work once. It works over and over, year after year, decade after decade. We're on the right road here. Or the findings are inconsistent. We got to keep at this. Or, wow, it raised a new question. So replication allows us to really find out what we still don't know too. Okay. And then finally, publication in a peer-reviewed or refereed journal. Peer review, the Reading League Journal is a peer-reviewed journal, provides a review by independent, so it's blinded. They don't know who wrote the article. They have no skin in the game, but they do have that same expertise related to the article's topic, and they can do a nice quality check to say, everything's described accurately and properly, or they reject it and say they are not correct, or they did the design poorly, go back to the drawing board. Science takes a long time to evolve on an answer. It can take years to do a study. It's very expensive, but you can see the level of rigor, because you don't want to mess around. We're trying to answer questions about children's lives and important social outcomes. We don't want to go around with what we believe or what we think or our biases. Okay, someone wrote, what is a red flag that a curriculum is not scientifically researched without looking at the study? Oh, okay. I'll try to get to that as we get to the end. I'm going to save that as an ending question, Nancy. Thank you. All right. I agree, studies are daunting. Okay. On we go. And so this chart you see here is on the what is the science of reading.org, which I hope if time allows to show you. We added this quote underneath the table on the website, what is the science of reading.org. because we just needed to kind of encapsulate some of that wordiness on that table with what we're really talking about. And this is from 2003. Look how old it is already. It's almost 30 years old. I remember when this Stanovich and Stanovich came out using research and reason in education. They were talking about scientifically based research for teachers back then, and we're finally getting to it, boy, oh boy. And they said, excuse me, teachers can benefit by understanding two things about research and causal inferences. The first is the simple, but sometimes obscured fact that statements about best instructional practices are statements that contain causal claims. Okay, we know that by doing X in our instruction leads to Y in outcomes. It causes kids to do better or adults to improve, things like that. These statements claim that one type of method or practice causes superior educational outcomes. There's lots of methods and practices that move kids along. I don't think anything, very rarely, makes kids go backwards, but don't we want to get the kids the farthest that we can? Okay, second thing to understand about research and causal inferences, teachers must understand how the logic of the experimental method provides the critical, bless you, support for making causal inferences. So without that experimental method that was just on that table, we aren't going to be able to make those inferences about what leads to better outcomes for children. Okay. Someone wrote, so grateful for all the researchers and technology gurus, for example, fMRI. They gave those of us in the trenches up-to-date information about how we learn to read. Our kiddos can't afford to be part of our learning curve or philosophical debates. Amen. If we're in the classroom, we need to know what we're doing when we get there. I love this group. This is fun. Wonderful. Passion. Listen to that. Okay, so now another thing our group decided, as we do, was we needed to come up with calls to action for all stakeholders involved. If you think we missed one, let us know. So we call, as a group, as the Defining Movement group, we call on educators to embrace opportunities to learn about the science of reading, reflect upon their practice, and challenge approaches to reading instruction that are not aligned with the scientific evidence. I think that's why a lot of us are here today. We're embracing opportunities. Perfect. Another thing, another call to action. How about districts and school admins? Oops, I clicked on the wrong thing. School boards and even school committees. We call on you to prioritize professional development on the science of reading. Well, for yourselves. I cannot say this enough. I don't think true transformation can happen if only the classroom educators get it. It has to be throughout, especially with the school leaders. Yes, they may retire, or yes, they may move to another district, but at least they'll take their knowledge with them and help more children and more educators. So we also call on them to provide the necessary support to adopt those assessments, resources, and practices. Not good enough to just provide you that program you want. They have to understand why they adopted it and provide training in it, right? All throughout. Okay, we call on schools of education. Yes, we do. And a lot of them are finally getting it, to align coursework with the science of reading and to foster interdisciplinary collaboration between all of those different fields of study. Get to know your cognitive psychologist or neuroscientist or speech and language expert or linguistics expert and related, so forth. Co-teach some classes, have some conversations, eat lunch together all the time. You all have something to learn from each other. Become a league of your own. Yeah. We call on state departments of education Go and collaborate with experts in the science of reading. They're there. They want that phone call. Why do you think they're doing this work? Okay. Design responsible rollouts of initiatives, not just putting it out there and saying, oh, everyone has to adopt this, and this will be the law, this will be the mandate next July. Okay. Responsible rollouts based on the science of reading, and prioritize leadership preparation to support what the teachers are doing when they implement this. Okay, and that includes educator standard measurement, licensing exams, and so forth. We call on curriculum publishers, and these are in no particular order, just me, Maria, would love this to be one of the first things, but we call on curriculum publishers and professional learning providers to create and promote products that are aligned with the science of reading and eliminate non-aligned products from their offerings. Don't worry, publishers, there's billions of dollars out there and you'll still get some of it if you do the right thing. That's my message to you today. We call on professional literacy associations, all of them. There are a lot of them that are not aligned with the science of reading, and we encourage you to please provide learning opportunities and resources aligned to the science of reading. This is bringing up a point I think I forgot to make, but that's okay. I'll make it right now. Remember when I said, I have a chat here, am I doing something? Okay, very good. Remember when I said that I've lost my train of thought. I always do that one thing. Okay. That we expected some pushback when we did this, and we didn't get much, but the pushback we got, as you might not be surprised by this, is that, and this I've heard forever, there are other kinds of research than just the science of reading. Okay, so Q&A on this if you have any like experiences to mine. So I would get a call and say, Maria, or an email saying, you know, I know that the defining movement is trying to define the science of reading, but this devalues other kinds of research. To which my answer is now, how can we go back and talk about the last 40 years when the science of reading was happening, but no one paid attention to it? So nobody in the defining movement, nobody at the Reading League, I don't think anybody in this audience is saying that any other ways of knowing about reading are unimportant or not valuable. What we're saying is it is time, and all we're asking for is that the science of reading get us some limelight on this stage. Can we please have some share of voice? Because for so long, it's almost as though we had to hide. I told you I couldn't say this out in public or during a PD session. We've had too long a silence about things, right? My friends that were the original founders of the Reading League with me, we were all doing our separate gigs. We weren't, and yet all around us, other kinds of research were being taught in schools of ed and by professional literacy associations, and never including the science of reading. So all we're asking for is a space to be part of the big other kinds of research pile you talk about. That's what I say. Okay, someone said, I've definitely heard that. I was at a PD once that told the attendees that they were researchers in their classroom, and if what they were doing was working, that was evidence and research. Okay, so yeah, teacher action research, very much taught in schools of ed, and there's absolute value to that. But we also have to teach our pre-service teachers that there is such a thing as scientifically based research that can give us that causal aspect, and that maybe we should consider that, yes, what I did, my students did learn X number of words, for example, this year, but could there have been more great, did I close the gaps? You know, and things like that. So these conversations have never happened in schools before or schools of ed, and they aren't seeming to happen in all professional literacy associations. And sorry, science of reading is part of literacy knowledge. Okay, we call on policymakers to develop solutions that prioritize acquisition and application of the science of reading in schools, and to ensure that they are supported by realistic timelines and resources. We call on parents and caregivers to take an active part in ensuring schools and their systems are utilizing practices aligned with the science of reading. We call on pediatricians to do similar, right? Screening of early speech and language developmental milestones, red flags for future reading difficulties. Reading scientists continue to investigate critical questions. They will. And then, more importantly, translate your findings. We hope that the Reading League is one of their big pipelines to practitioners. That's what we want to be. And then translate the findings into terminology that is not no jargon, get rid of it. And then find outlets. And I know there are teams of people implementing translational science, which is fantastic. They create groups and teams of researchers that can actively seek out ways to translate it to educators and even form partnerships with educators. There was an article about that in our last Reading League journal. Okay, and finally, we call on federal agencies and private foundations to continue to fund research on issues that haven't been scientifically researched yet or fully understood yet. And yeah, we want that funding to keep going so we can keep getting that knowledge body refined. Okay. Again, if you have any questions, Q&A is the place to type them. I'm continuing to look. Now, I love that we have this code of ethics for the scientific reading community. And we are relying on Dr. Nathan Clemens helped us with this. And also this is a paper that is coming out. It's in review right now. And they allowed us to feature these bullet points in the Reading League, or not the Reading League, the Defining Movements, Defining Guide, which I'll show you in a short moment. All of these sections I've shown you are on whatisthescienceofreading.org if you click on a defining guide. So we've kind of turned this into a field guide for the science of reading that will be published ultimately. It'll be downloadable for free, but also published in a little book. Okay, so fairly evaluate all evidence. I'm not going to read these to you, but you can read them on your own on the website. Dig deeper and seek clarification. When you have disagreements, disagree respectfully. We're living in an age of social media, and we are all extremely passionate, and we tend to argue in social media spaces with a little bit of disrespect or a lot of it. And the Reading League even gets caught up in it a little bit, and we're learning our lessons and improving how we approach it. Recognize the fallibility of anecdotes and personal experiences. So that person that mentioned teacher action research, there's, it works for me, it works for my kids, and therefore that's where I'm gonna, I have to recognize that there's some fallibility in that possibly. Multiple studies are needed to identify best practice. It just can't be from one study. The science of reading has consensus from thousands or hundreds or dozens of studies that are of high quality, and that's what we need to rely on. Have courage to reconsider when something gives you new understandings. Examine and disclose any conflicts of interest. So if they are using or publishing or selling a program or materials, we better say, Is that why you think such a way? Or is that why I think such a way? Self-critique. Okay, acknowledge when you are incomplete on something. Someone just said, those studies are daunting. I don't understand how to read those studies. Well, you know what? You can actually feel absolutely free and absolutely comfortable reaching out to a researcher and emailing them. They are beyond wonderful to get on an email with you and help you understand things if you need to. Or I'm always saying you can ask on social media, but some of the answers out there are kind of scary to me. Base decisions on the quality of evidence, not on popularity of an author or presenter or program or publisher. So this is kind of how we hope to negotiate our science of reading community. We don't have all the answers yet, but we have to not die on hills that and then create tears within our community. It's not worth it. Okay, now here we go. Great. Like I said, the science of reading, all those sections I just showed you, each slide I showed you is pretty much what we call a section, is going to be published in a guide. You can download it or purchase it in a book form. So let's see, we're gonna go to the website, which I have pulled up on the big screen behind me, but can somebody in the chat confirm that this worked, that you can see the website that I just pulled up, or even Q&A? Can people confirm, yes, I see your website? I hate to, or do you not see it? No, cannot see it. Okay. I'm gonna stop share and then screen share and then. Okay, I think you can now see it. Okay, thank you. Good to ask. Yes, thank you very much. So here's the website, what is the science of reading.org, that the coalition formed. They were very gracious in allowing the Reading League to put its logo on it because we pulled it together, but I feel compelled to say that this was a group effort by those coalition people that are right here. Again, you see them here. So here's the defining guide as it is right now. It's always being changed. We're constantly updating it. We ask them to go in and change a word or two as we did it. So we showed you the rationale, we showed you the definition, we showed you what the science of reading is not. We showed you that table. All of this is being continued. There's the beautiful quote by Stanovich and Stanovich. Here are some sections that I didn't show you today, but we have some basic, simple outlines of skillful reading. That's going to be updated very soon. We're going to have more crisp images. This whole section about instructional practices that align with the science of reading has just been updated. So if you come back in a few days, this will be more precise. All right. Thank you to some people like Nathan Clemens that helped us. Here's a new section I didn't tell you about. The science of reading includes learners with linguistic differences. Okay. Whether they're English language variations, dialectical, multi-language learners, English learners, the science of reading is for them too. Okay, so I'm gonna then, before I hop back to the presentation, and I wanted to encourage you when you come to this, what is the science of reading? And I hope that you do after this presentation, make a little post-it note or write it on your hand. Don't forget to come and join us today. Take action and join. And what does that mean? You're literally going to type in your first name and last name and email address. And then we email you when there's a new section, when there's any announcements, when there's changes to this. And we're excited about that. So there is power in numbers, believe me. When we can get 100,000 people to share their name and join this movement, we will have some power behind that and influence those stakeholders I told you about a few minutes ago. So please do join the movement. And finally, here are some sections that I did not show in the defining guide yet or show you today. But those are getting either updated or added. We're going to have MTSS, a framework to improve reading outcomes, and then a concluding equity statement. Okay. I'm going to show you, or in a minute, to end my presentation and then allow for Q&A, I hope. Dr. Tracy Whedon from Nyhouse Education Center in Texas. When we were starting this work, we decided to situate it, because it's a perfectly natural thing to do, in as a social justice issue. It is low literacy and equity in reading education and attainment. Okay, so she wrote a beautiful preamble. She read it to us and we loved it so much, we asked her to film and record it. So I'm going to play that for you too. And then at the end of the defining guide, so this is why you should join, you'll be able to read an equity statement. We have 7 minutes. Okay, thank you for the time. I figured that. Little shout out for the Reading Buddies TV show. That's our latest and greatest program for especially children who've had interrupted or missed learning opportunities due to COVID. It's available on YouTube. Look for Reading Buddies. And we have some amazing Broadway actors and puppeteers and this robot thing, bringing the science of reading to children for 26 minutes a day. So you can check that out and follow them on social media. And also in, gosh, a little over 2 weeks, we're having our virtual conference. Kareem Weaver is going to talk about the case for equity and moving past our belligerent denial of the science of reading. And then Jennifer Buckingham's going to keynote, which I love her title too. She says, what do teachers need to know, or what's just nice to know about the science of reading? What do they, there's so much out there. What do they really need to know, or what's nice to know? So that's taking place on October 13th virtually. If you're busy, you don't have to attend that day, you're working, but you will still get all 20 sessions and all these things here for just $149, but registering before the 13th means it's not going to go up to $199 on you. So the sooner the better. Okay. I will, can someone in the group, I can't remember if we decided I would do Q&A for a couple minutes first and then do the Tracy Whedon video. What would you like me to do, friends? I will do whatever I'm instructed. I can't remember. Q&A first. Okay, perfect. And then the Tracy's message is about 2 minutes. So we have a minute or two for Q&A. Someone did ask earlier, how do we determine or decide that a curriculum is not in alignment with the science of reading without looking at, and I can't remember what that person said. Okay, Tracy's passages. Okay, we're good. Thanks, everyone. When I present, I get so wound up in it. I keep forgetting things. Let's see. I'm going to look for that Q&A and wait for others.
So Maria, I think the question was, what is a red flag that a curriculum is not scientifically researched without looking at the study?
You can determine that for sure. Thank you. Using the curriculum evaluation tool on our website. Go under knowledge base and then frequently requested resources. And it's called the Curriculum Evaluation Guide. It's a very simple tool, or curriculum evaluation tool, very simple to use. You can run any program through it and look at the teacher's guides and materials. And if it tends to have a lot of things in the red flag area, things that aren't aligned, then you're going to know to not use that program. There is no perfect program out there, but there's some that are kind of nice and really getting close. And the Reading League does not recommend programs. We can't. We want to try to stay as agnostic as possible. Okay. Are there other questions, folks?
Looks like we do have one in the Q&A. What are your thoughts about the book, Shifting the Balance, 6 Ways to Bring the SOR into the Balanced Literacy Classroom by Jan Birkins and Carrie Yates?
Shifting the Balance, I highly recommend this before using it as a book study guide in a school or something. Stephanie Stoller, and you can either email her. She was one of our coalition members. She's a consultant, and she did a phenomenal review of the book and did a cautionary tale about one part of it. And also Laura Stewart, our national director. And I think, Laura, you're on this talk with us today. You can also ask her at laura@thereadingleague.org. She wrote a review of the book as well. I think it's a great, and I don't mean to not answer the question. I think it's a great sign that such a book is there, and it's phenomenal and exciting that they're getting there, but they kind of hedged in one spot that needs to be less hedged at. How about I put it that way? All right, other questions?
I think we have another question about how do you see the defining movement spreading so that it can really take hold across the country and stakeholders?
The defining movement is spreading through, I think, the whole message that an understanding that the science of reading has become a catchphrase that is co-opted and poorly used and whatnot. So I've been personally, I think I've done about 6 podcasts on it already. Spreading, you are welcome to this slide deck. You are more than welcome to share this anywhere you'd like. This belongs to everybody. I hope that people talk about it, share it on their social media, ask and encourage, make it a goal of theirs to get a couple dozen people to join, and etc. So I think that it's going to grow on its own, like a good social movement does. Anyone else have suggestions on that? Anyone have a little marketing background or anything like that? We will listen to you and welcome your help too.
All right, thank you, Maria. I think there's so many questions already that we are out of time though, but thank you so much for answering the ones that you had time for.
Thank you very much, everyone. I love being with passionate people.
So I think we're ready to kick off Tracy Whedon.
Okay, that's the perfect thing to end this presentation with. Okay.
Have you ever found yourself working with a
up.
client that suddenly reappeared after going MIA, forcing you to drop everything to finish their project? Or about trying to manage an upset client because they changed the project scope? Or you provided a change order for work they thought should be done for free?
Here we go.
If you're nodding your head yes,
Humankind's most precious treasure is our children, and our future depends on them. Damage that is incurred by our students, especially the most vulnerable among them, when adults have limited access to the convergent scientific evidence. Research has yielded proven assessment and instructional practices with which every teacher and leader should be equipped. We believe that providing educators with this knowledge is a moral imperative. We are committed to evidence-aligned reading instruction being scaled with a sense of urgency and a comprehensive and systematic way by multiple stakeholders. We know that our children can be taught to read properly the first time. In a knowledge economy, the currency of the 21st century will be built on the foundation of skilled reading. Students who can read well have a place at the table of opportunity, whether their aspirations lead them to preparation for college or the workforce. We believe in a future where a collective focus on applying the science of reading through teacher and leader preparation, classroom application, and community engagement will elevate and transform every community, every nation through the power of literacy. Join us.
Thank you, Maria, for that great informative presentation. I think the preamble so resonates with so many of us. Now we're going to take a few minutes and hear from our Spotlight partners.
Literacy is the language of opportunity. We empower teachers, administrators, and parents with the best evidence-based methods to teach reading so every child succeeds.
I'm Margie Gillis, founder and president of Literacy How, a nonprofit organization that provides professional development for teachers and administrators. I'm thrilled that you have joined us today for the Reading League of Connecticut's kickoff event, and if you haven't already joined the defining movement, I encourage you to do that today. I have had the pleasure of working with Dr. Maria Murray, fearless leader of the Reading League, and 15 other amazing individuals who gathered together over the past year to determine how best to bring the science of reading to various stakeholder groups. This experience was extremely gratifying for me since I was in the company of passionate professionals who, like me, have a strong desire to influence how educators are trained to teach children to read. The work that we did together and that Maria shared with you earlier today gave me a chance to reflect on the work that I and my mentor team have been doing for the past 21 years. We've made great progress in bringing the research into teachers' classrooms, but we have miles to go before we rest, knowing that our children are well positioned with the literacy skills they need to realize their potential. Thank you for all that you are doing to fulfill that dream.
Literacy How translates the science of reading into comprehensive professional development and provides mentoring support so teachers are better equipped to raise reading achievement levels. Our approach enhances literacy instruction for all students.
And we're going to start off our sentence where we're going to say with a capital letter. So now say this. The Good. You want to use it? Pull that over.
Over the past 20 years, our mentors have worked with hundreds of schools, supporting thousands of teachers through professional development and personalized coaching. We continue and hope you will join us on our mission to empower teachers to ensure that every child learns to read.
The space is tiny.
Okay, very good.
What's the title of this section?
It was once a spoiled space.
Literacy can and should be for all. Lexia Learning is the structured literacy expert and a proud partner of the Reading League and member of the Science of Reading Coalition. Recently, Lexia and Voyager Sopris Learning joined forces under the Cambium Learning Group family of companies, and through a close partnership, Letters Professional Learning is now offered exclusively through Lexia. The Letters Suite is comprehensive professional learning that provides educators and administrators with deep knowledge to be literacy and language experts in the science of reading. Developed by Dr. Louisa Moats and other literacy experts, Letters teaches the skills needed to master the fundamentals of reading instruction, phonological and phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, comprehension, writing, and language.
The first day, I was just gaining so much knowledge. And then I went back to the classroom and noticed that right away it was making a difference.
It gave the teachers the why, but also the how. So why students are struggling, why is reading complex, but then this is how you plan for it.
Letters is one of the many solutions from Lexia that are built upon effective, science-based, structured literacy to meet the needs of all students. From acceleration to intervention to English language learners to assessment and professional learning, Lexia's literacy solutions help more learners read, write, and speak with confidence. We currently serve more than 5.2 million students in over 20,000 schools. We're grateful for your dedication as educators. We look forward to being your literacy partner.